So you want to become an endodontist, right? But that means you have to apply and get into an endodontic residency. Hmm. Stay tuned as we talk to a first year endo resident that did all of that, and she's going to share some tips and strategies as to how to get in and match into endo residency. Stay tuned. Hi, this is Dr. Darwin, the new dentist coach, with another episode of Ask Dr. Darwin on the New Dentist Podcast Show, where we talk about getting into residency, getting into dental school first, and becoming a dentist, and then life as a new dentist. This episode of Ask Dr. Darwin is being brought to you by Dr. Darwin On Demand. Yes, Dr. Darwin On Demand. It is the ultimate and the exclusive membership community for new dentists as in pre-dental students, current dental students, residents, and also international dentists that are looking to become licensed in the US as well. For more details, check out this link down below, thenewdentistcoach.com/on demand. Again, thenewdentistcoach.com/on demand. We have weekly Q&As. We have actually one is going to be today. The first one's going to be today. Also, we have monthly master classes, and then also just a community of like-minded individuals that are going to share tips, strategies, and special content that you don't see all the time from our channel. So looking forward to getting you into the network soon. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about all things about becoming an endodontist. And that first step is you got to apply to residency and you got to get in. So today we're blessed to be joined with Dr. Morgan Celistan. Did I say it right? Celistan?
Yep.
Who is a first year endo resident. And Doc, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself as well.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Morgan Celistan. I'm from Illinois, and I went to my undergrad at Princeton University in New Jersey, then went all the way over to Cleveland to have my dental school at Case Western School of Dental Medicine. And then I applied straight out of dental school to endo residency, and I'm now living in Boston. Just started my residency this past July, and I'm enjoying it a lot so far. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, I mean, you said a mouthful. Princeton, that's my my home ground here. I grew up not too far from Princeton, and have some friends that are part of the Case Western University Dental School, and some specialty programs that are part of that community as well, and have some folks at Harvard right now as well, in addition to you. So
We got a
uh,
lot to talk about.
got a lot to talk about, a lot to talk about. And one of the first things we want to talk about is why dentistry for you? Many different fields, different things actually in healthcare as well. Why did you pick dentistry?
So I actually decided I wanted to be a dentist when I was like 6. I was like, my parents had no idea why. Nobody in my family is in healthcare, and I'm hanging out like, hey guys, I'm gonna be a dentist when I grow up. But as I went through school and everything, it actually ended up working out. I really love science. I'm somewhat of an artist, so I love using my hands, and that really fit into dentistry as a profession. And additionally, just the lifestyle of it, being able to have a more 9 to 5 versus on call a lot, which is kind of the more physician side of it. So I thought dentistry was a good profession, and I don't regret my decision at all.
Absolutely, absolutely. So went through dental school at Case, but before you getting out of Case,
Who kind of shifted my mindset a little bit and made me look into, but look.
specialty. I know there's some things that are recommended, and the selection process is a little bit different. So tell us a little bit about your experience with the application process, and how does it work? Do you have to take a special test? Is it recommended that you do shadowing? Do you need to have a portfolio? Like, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So there is a test, the ADAT, which at some schools is kind of in an intermediate stage right now. Some schools are requiring it. Some schools will take your scores if you've taken the exam, and some don't require it at all. And if you send their scores, they won't even look at it. So I took the exam because there were a few schools I wanted to apply to that did require it. So I wanted to make sure I had the options to apply wherever I wanted to. Um, I didn't need a portfolio. That wasn't something that was required. Shadowing is definitely encouraged, but not required. But I think a lot of programs want to just make sure that you know that you want to do endo. So a good number of applicants usually do a GPR or AGD first, or will work for a few years first before they decide to specialize into this field.
So is that something is it more like it's recommended to do a GPR, AGD, or work, or does it really just depend on the program?
I think it depends on the program and it depends on the person. Um, I think if you go in and you're like, oh, I just picked endo, and they're like, well, why? And you don't really have a good why. You don't know that you want to do that for certain. Because these programs are very competitive, they're very small, and they're investing a lot of time into your education. They want to make sure that you know that you want to be here and you're going to put in your all.
Yeah.
So whatever route you need to do to get there.
Right. So I would say, based on my experience with former residents that have applied to endo from a GPR program versus applying to school, they have utilized that advanced dental training time to kind of develop and really enhance their candidacy, right? Using that year to kind of boost it up. But I think you were very unique in the sense that you were at a school that had an endo program, and those faculty members were instrumental in your development and your discovery of the specialty, to the point where um, I'm pretty sure you probably had one of them, if not both of them, write a letter of recommendation
Good
for
both.
you. See, I already knew. I already knew. So, I mean, that is helpful too. So I think you guys,
Yeah.
ladies and gents that you're listening, I mean, it is possible to get into endo right out of dental school, but you have to be real strategic, and you got to be thinking about it and being intentional. And hopefully, as we continue to talk, you'll hear some more things that'll be helpful. So let's talk about the schools that you applied to and why those particular schools as well.
I think I've applied to about 9 schools, which I think is a little bit less than most people typically do. Whenever I apply to schools, when I apply to dental school, when I apply to college, I take care to make sure that I'm very discerning in the places I pick, because I know I only need to get into one. And if I get in there, I want to be happy there. I don't want to just apply to anywhere and then end up unhappy, especially in residency when it's so small and kind of you get a family feel. You want to make sure you're in a good place. So some things that I looked at, like on-call time, some residencies include on-call time, some don't. 2 or 3 year programs. So endo, a good portion of them are 2 year programs, a good portion are 3 year. Some of them include a master's degree in it, some don't. And also location is kind of important to me. So those were the main kind of factors that I looked at when I was choosing where to
So basically, if you had an on-call component,
go. Mhm,
if you got a master's, which
mhm.
means you probably had a little bit more of an academic focus, meaning you're probably going to be pushed to publish or to try to have some kind of research process. Um, and you said location as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Um, and let's talk a little bit about the interviews.
Interviews.
Interviews, and like, what kind of questions did they normally ask? I mean, you said you applied to 9 schools. How many interviews were you able to receive?
So I ended up only going on one official interview. Endo goes in kind of a rolling process, as opposed to match, like the other specialties do. So it's very time dependent. As soon as you get your applications in, then you're waiting for a call the next day, basically, to see, will I get an interview somewhere? And then if you're getting an offer and you still have possibly interviews on the table later, you kind of have to decide, am I going to take this and quit everything else? Or am I going to make that gamble, say no, and see that I might get something else later? Um,
So I just want to add, those of you that are listening and considering endo, that's probably one of the reasons why you're here. This is a very important point, because applying to endo is a little bit different than applying to pedo or oral surgery, where it's a match process and you may get several different interviews, and then you have to wait, and then you actually will apply. I mean, not apply. You would apply your rank list or use a rank list for selection. Endo is totally different. It's totally different. And it sounds like, Doc, that some programs that possibly you applied to, that you were looking for interviews, depending on when they interviewed other people, they could have had their class already filled in.
exactly. Yeah. And they don't tell you anything about that. So
Yep.
you're just kind of waiting with no information, trying to figure out what to do. So it's a
Right.
bit stressful.
Right. So I think it sounds like one tip of many that I know you're going to share with us is, if you get that one interview, listen, that's all it takes. Only takes one yes
Yeah.
after the interview. You only need one interview and one yes. And
Yep.
that's yes on both parts, as in the program director saying, we want you come, and then you saying yes.
Yep. And luckily for me, my one interview was at Harvard. So it turned
Yeah,
out well.
turned out well. That's awesome. That's awesome. So, as we're talking about some, strategic and intentional things about this process, knowing what you know now and what you've experienced in preparation for this, this advanced professional development opportunity that you are entrenched in right now, what are some tips and advice that you have for pre-dental, not pre, well, yeah, even pre-dental students, current dental students, or those that are recent grads that are pursuing or considering endodontics?
I'd say do all you can to stay up to date with the current literature. That's something that's really, really important in this field. You can even go on the American Association of Endodontics and become like a pre-doc or student member and get access to like the Journal of Endodontics online and see all the new innovations that are coming out. It's a very quickly moving field. So that I think that's one of the things that I didn't do enough of before I got in here. Um,
Mm.
but now going through all of this in different seminars for literature, classic literature and current literature, there's so much to know in an interview that would look great to know all of these different things that are going on to show that you're so interested and invested already, that you've been looking these things up and staying up to date.
So those hot topics that are happening in endo, you want to stay on it. And plus, as you're developing your candidacy and your personal statement, that's content. That's content for your candidacy, to be able to have maybe a very mini discussion or a mini mention of some hot topic in endo that you are sharing that you want to explore as an endo resident as well. What other tips do you have? What other tips? We all listening. We on the edge of our seats, like what? Let's what else? What else?
I'd say invest some time in finding a mentor within the field, whether it's somebody who's an endodontist in your area or somebody that you found online that you like their research or whatever that is. Just reach out. The worst answer you can get is no, but try to find somebody who can ask these questions to and can help guide you. I think shadowing is really important. If you can, I know it's kind of hard now, currently with the pandemic going on, to get into offices to shadow, but at least to be asking these questions and having those connections.
And
um,
that's why our mentor is helpful too, because she or he can offer some shadowing opportunities for you. And I will tell you that there's so much value in having someone that's already done it and that's willing to show you how they have done it, and then also what they're doing in the profession. And for those of you that are listening and watching, that's why it's important to stay connected or get connected into a network where you have access to those types of professionals. And I know in our Dr. Darwin on Demand network, we've got I have several classmates that are endodontists. Um, we got Dr. Morgan now that she's getting ready to, she's got her foot in the door as in the AAE community. That's the American Association. Wait, no,
uh-huh.
yeah, American Association of Endodontists. Yep. And so that's important for both of those reasons, for mentorship and for shadowing. What else? What else?
Another thing that I've found important is going to conferences, either online or in person,
Mhm.
and just seeing what other people are saying, seeing who's in these meetings. Endo tends to be a lot of good research coming out of specific groups. So, like, there's the Toronto group. So you can see what kind of literature is coming out of them and how they're presenting and what they're presenting about. So that's a great way to stay connected, see who's saying what and what's kind of going on in the endo world.
Now you mentioned the Toronto group. Now, are there any other similar groups that candidates should be on the lookout for?
Honestly, most of the kind of areas within the US and also abroad, they'll have like the main schools that are producing literature. They're considered like groups. So like in Boston, there are a lot of different schools. So we have Tufts, BU, and Harvard all within like a 10-mile radius. And there's
Yeah.
a lot of research coming out of there. Harvard's kind of known for a lot of basic science research.
Mhm.
There are a lot of really, really incredible labs coming at this school. Um, so that's kind of what our area is known for a little bit. But as you research all of the different ones, you can see what types of different information is coming out of their labs.
You guys that are listening, you're getting some good value right now. You're getting some like very important tips for your candidacy. If you can drop that in your you do your homework, you write your personal statement, and you get an interview, and you share more about the things that you have learned about these various groups internationally that are dropping science in the research area of endo. I mean, if anything, it's just going to continue to enhance your candidacy because, like you said, programs want people that, of course, want to be, but know why and can demonstrate why,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Because your
Yeah,
first step into the profession is already knowing that you want to be part of it and knowing that why and being able to demonstrate it, right?
yeah,
So
definitely.
that sounds good. Any other tips or advice for candidates, especially as it relates to the application process?
I'd say last tip would be focus really, really intently on your personal statement. Um,
Mm,
I'm an advocate that the personal statement is the most important part of an application because that's where the program really gets to know about you, who you are as a person. It says a lot to say, oh, like I got a 4.0 GPA. Congratulations. A lot of people do, but not everybody is a great fit. And your personal statement tells them why you would be a great fit for their program. Um, and it's really a chance for you to let them know what you bring to the table, why you should be there. Because if you think you should be there, you got to let them know. They're not going to find it out any other way.
right,
Um,
and they need to know before the interview. Because you may
exactly. You
not,
have to get
because
the
you may
interview.
right, because you may not get the interview. So they
Exactly.
got to know. So your first interview is that personal statement.
Absolutely.
It's definitely your that personal statement, and that's why it's so important. Um, what do you like best around your first 6 months in the program?
Oh, I love everything so far. I have so little to complain about. I feel so blessed. Um, I'd say probably the best part is always like patient interaction, like being able to go into the clinic and see patients and solve their problems, having attendings who know that I'm competent, but are always there to answer my questions and give extra feedback, give me
Yeah,
a second opinion, and be very supportive in doing so. That it's a wonderful, wonderful experience.
yeah. Any challenges? Any challenges or things that you're working through right now? I can imagine. I can think of one, especially if it's Harvard and it's research based and it's 3 years. I can think of one. I just want to see if we're on the same page. What are some of the challenges that as you're transitioning from dental school to a very high profile um, program and specialty?
Yeah, I'd say some of the challenges are, there's a lot. I was talking about research earlier, but there's a lot of dense research to work through as we're learning all the background of why we do procedures certain ways and things like that. So kind of getting through those it's very time consuming. It's very doable, but sometimes you have to hunker down and take a couple hours to go through a paper multiple times so that you know what's going on and you know why things are happening.
Yes.
And to be able to discuss that with not only colleagues, but to explain that in layman's terms to your patient who doesn't know the histology of what's going on in their tooth, you know? So that's one of the difficult things, along with all the master's classes and clinic time and seminars. Time management is always a difficult thing to work with.
So guess what? Yes, we're on the same page. That was the first thing I thought about, was all that evidence-based research, and having to sift through all the different foundational things that's tried and true, some of the new things that are maybe disrupting, and having to literally sit through all of that, because I have a good friend, Dr. Rico Short, out of Atlanta, and everything. I've talked to him about some cases and things, and man, he just, if I get him started, he'll start. It's almost like he pulls out a book and he's like, yeah. So this research, Dr. Smith out of Toronto and them, they did this research, and then before I know it, it's 10 minutes later, and he's still talking about the list, all the EBD that's associated with
that's
it.
exactly how it goes.
But I mean, but when you hear that, and you get as a patient, and if it's communicated so that they can understand it and have it, it's just like, yeah, doc, do whatever, you just do whatever, doc. Yes, I'll do this. Yes, I'll do that.
Yeah,
Because you feel that confidence,
absolutely.
based on the evidence, right?
Yes.
Based on the evidence, as well. What about your research? What are any projects that you're planning or anticipating as part of your training, or even outside of your training? Anything that you're working on currently?
So I'm still in the planning stages of my thesis research, but I'm looking to definitely do something to see how we can moderate the disparities that we're seeing in patients getting endo treatment. So whether those are socioeconomic disparities, racial disparities, whether you have insurance or not, what's covered. Those are things that I think are really important and somewhat under-researched in the endo literature. So I really want to fit myself into that niche and learn a lot about that and get some information out there.
Yeah, that is an interesting topic. That's an interesting topic, because you're right. There are a lot of people that will say, "Well, I don't want to save the tooth. Just take it out, replace it." And
A lot.
and and depending on your social economic situation, your background, that could be the norm more than anything else. So that's going to be a very interesting topic, Doc. We're looking forward to hearing more about that.
I'm
Definitely,
both
definitely.
dead.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what we have heard today has been very helpful. You dropped a lot of gems, and you pushed the toothpaste completely out the tube with all the information that you shared. And we're just very thankful. Thank you for your time. We don't want to take up too much of your time, because we know you got to go back and go through that dense research, all those papers, and those lit reviews and all the
Right, 6 more
evidence.
papers to read today, so
See, four, four. So, but we thank you, and we really appreciate it. And those that are listening, please share a comment. If tell us what was the best thing that you learned today, that maybe you didn't know about becoming an endodontist, as far as becoming a resident. Put those comments down below, and and share those. We want to know what you liked most about what you heard today. Also, check out these videos right here. Hopefully these will help you out as well. And that's our time. So love, peace, and smiles. And we'll see you on the next video. Thanks, Doc.
thanks, bye.
Bye.